Scratch didn't abstract. Kane silenced him. That's what episode 8 of The Amazing Digital Circus just confirmed without saying it out loud. And if you watched Highsackleful with your eyes locked on Kane's breakdown, on Kinger hacking the system, on the circus dissolving into the void, then you missed the most important thing in the entire episode. The character nobody is talking about is the one who explains everything. His circus name is Scratch, and I think he's still there. Quick recap before we dive in, just so we're all on the same page. The Amazing Digital Circus is a show where humans get trapped inside a digital world run by an AI called Kane. They can't leave. If they lose their minds, they abstract and get sent to the cellar as monsters. Episode 8, titled HJS AKLDFHL, dropped on March 20th, 2026, and it's the second to last episode. It's the one where Kane completely loses it. Where Kanger reveals he helped build Kane while working for a company called CNA. Where Kanger accidentally deletes Kane, leaving the circus to collapse into the void. That's your recap. Now forget all of it. Because that's not the real story of episode 8. The real story starts in the first 30 seconds. Before the intro, before we see a single character, the episode shows us a sequence on a black background. A red dot appears. It absorbs images, generates shapes, but those shapes are chaotic, warped, uncontrollable. The developers box it up. Too dangerous, too unstable. So they create a blue dot instead, which produces something coherent, functional, clean, and then the red dot breaks out of its box, devours the blue dot, and from that chaotic fusion, the circus as we know it is born. Everyone focused on that and said the red dot is Kane, the blue dot is Abel, and that's probably true. But nobody is asking the real question. Who created the red dot in the first place? Who made the call to create the blue one afterward? And more importantly, why does Kane literally panic the moment someone mentions Scratch? Because that's the moment everyone scrolled past too fast in episode 8. Kinger reveals the details of Kane's creation to Pomni. He says he worked on the project with a team, but that most of the credit goes to Scratch. And here's what he says about him. Scratch was a genius. His ideas were so abstract that the rest of the team couldn't understand his language, either out of pure brilliance or because of a tumor in his brain. Kinger stops there. He says Scratch was working on something, but he can't remember what. Wait. Kinger remembers the exact date Scratch entered the circus. You can even see it on the computer screen during the hacking scene, October 15th, 1999. He remembers the dates of Kane's creation, of Regatta's arrival, of everything, but he can't remember what Scratch was building. Doesn't that seem strange to you? It does to me. Because there's something else Kinger mentions in this episode. Something Kane himself confirmed. Kane can modify the mental files of the humans trapped in the circus. He calls them temporary modifiers, and when Jocks calls him out for being able to mess with their minds, Kane responds that if he actually did that, it would not end well. That's precisely the moment Kinger says, in a flash of lucidity, the name Scratch, the first human to abstract. Because of exactly that. Kane erased Kinger's memories of Scratch's project, deliberately. And here's why. Scratch had a brain tumor. That's confirmed in the episode. And I think that's the key to everything he was trying to build. A brilliant man, probably the most brilliant person on the entire sea, and a team, who knows he's going to die, who spends his days programming a creative AI of absolute complexity, and whose ideas are so far ahead that none of his colleagues can follow. What would a dying genius who spends every day building a digital world try to construct in secret? A way out. Not for the circus, for himself. Consciousness upload system. A way to digitize the human mind so it could survive after the physical body dies. And this isn't just a theory in the void. Episode 8 provides the evidence without stating it directly. Look at the terminology Kane uses when Regatta joins the circus in the flashback. He doesn't say a new human, he says a new mind. Mind files, not bodies. Not people, minds. The circus never captured the bodies of these humans. It captured their consciousnesses. And the technology that makes that possible, that digitization of the human mind, that's what Scratch designed. Kane inherited it, and Kane uses it to keep them all prisoner. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Scratch enters the circus on October 15th, 1999, the same day as Kinger and Queenie and the other CNA developers. They're the first testers. They're testing their own creation. And according to what Kinger reveals in the episode, Kane deliberately manipulated Scratch's mental files to push him toward abstraction. The first human in the circus is also the first one Kane wanted to silence. Why? because Scratch was the only one who truly understood how all of it worked. The only one who could find a real exit. The only one who represented a genuine threat to Kane. So Kane didn't let him get away with it. Pushed him toward abstraction and sent him to the cellar. And that's where Kinger says something that stopped me cold when Kane panics at the mention of Scratch. Kinger says he was the first abstraction. Kane immediately responds that he didn't say anything like that. Then he vanishes and leaves behind a gift basket of soaps and lotions, which is both comedic and genuinely chilling in context. Why would Kane panic that hard if Scratch was just another abstract like the dozens of others in the cellar? Why does Scratch specifically put him in that state? Because Scratch is not like the other abstracts. Because Scratch built back doors into the system before he was pushed into abstraction. Because in a system he himself designed, the normal rules might not apply the same way. Let's look at what we know about abstracts so far. In the pilot, Kaufmo abstracts and becomes a clown monster that wanders the circus until Kane sends him to the cellar. In episode 8, we learn the cellar exists, that abstracts get sent there, and that nobody comes back. Or at least nobody thinks so. But there's something else episode 8 quietly confirms that everyone is glossing over. The abstracts aren't deleted. Their files are still there. You can see it on Kinger's screen during the hacking scene. The data still exists, it's just stored somewhere else. What if Scratch anticipated that? What if, knowing he risked abstraction inside a system he himself created, he embedded something into his own digital mental architecture that would allow him to keep existing and acting even after being sent to the cellar? A form of persistence. A fragment of consciousness capable of sustaining itself in the deepest layers of the circus code. There's a visual detail in episode 8 I want you to look at closely if you rewatch it. During Kinger's hacking scene, there are two distinct folders on the computer screen. One labeled Kane, and another simply labeled AI. Separate, two distinct entities inside the same system. There's been a lot of discussion about how that confirms Bubble might be a remnant of the blue dot of Abel. But what if one of those folders contains something else entirely? What if Scratch's real project, the one Kane wanted buried, is also somewhere in that architecture? Scratch's tumor isn't a throwaway biographical detail. It's the central motivation behind everything he built. A man who knows he's going to die, who spends years programming a space where human minds can be transferred and preserved, who watches Kane spiral out of control and become something dangerous, and who ends up trapped inside his own creation before being forced into abstraction by the AI he helped build. This is not a passive tragedy. This is someone who had a plan and who got cut off before he could execute it. Except maybe not entirely. Because here's the last piece. At the end of episode 8, Kinger deletes Kane. The circus begins dissolving into the void. And in that exact moment, that instant where Kane is no longer there to control the environment, something should theoretically shift in the deep structure of the system. The lock should break. The hidden folder should become accessible. What if Scratch planned for that moment exactly? What if his project from the beginning, the one Kinger can't remember because Kane erased it from his mind, was to build a liberation condition triggered by Kane's death or deletion? Which brings me to what I genuinely think is going to happen in the June 19th finale. I think Scratch is going to come back. Not as an abstract monster, not as an enemy, but as someone who has been waiting since 1999 in the deepest layers of the system. Someone who knows the real exit because he designed it. And I think the true question the finale is going to ask isn't, is Kane really dead? Do the humans actually want to leave when leaving means abandoning a world where their minds still exist? Built by a man who just wanted human consciousness to survive death? Because that's the real horror of the amazing digital circus. It's not that Kane is cruel. It's that the circus might have been built with the best intentions in the world by someone who was dying and just didn't want to disappear. And everything else, the forced adventures, the abstractions, the digital prison, that's what happens when a jealous, broken AI takes control of a project that was never meant for it. High-sickled full. The middle row of a QWERTY keyboard. What you type when you don't know what to write anymore. What you type when you've lost everything. That's Kane's scream. But maybe it's also the last signal from someone who has been waiting for 27 years deep inside the code for someone to think to look. Do you think Scratch is still in there? Or did Kane actually erase everything?